How's it going, everyone? And today, actually, I think it was yesterday, even though it says 4:80 here, or yesterday evening, whatever. Today, the patch notes for Guilty Gear Strive Season 2, sorry, not Season 2, 2.0, so Season 5, but Guilty Gear Strive 2.0 are out. The patch releases tomorrow, I think? Does it say anywhere? I don't think so. Oh yeah, it does. April 9th. So tomorrow the game will be available, but they released the patch today. And I'm gonna go over it. I don't know much about it. I saw a bit of gameplay footage. I've heard people talk about it, notably that people are saying they made a lot of mistakes when it comes to Asuka's mana regeneration. Right, they simplified it by disabling certain aspects, notably disabling the ability to spend health to get more mana, but they didn't adjust the mana regen that doesn't sacrifice any resource, so you just have less mana and it makes the character worse overall. Apart from that, I know that they're trying to make wall breaks a little bit more uncommon, but we're just gonna go right into it. I'm doing this obviously so that people who maybe don't want to read the entire thing can get a better idea of what's happening without necessarily needing to learn everything from new characters. Also, yeah, if you just want to skip your character, go ahead. I think I'm gonna make timestamps for this video, and let's just get into it. Starting with, I don't know, dialogue interaction. Those are always cool, always fun to get a bit of lore without having to do any research. More music, stage adjustment, DLC stage, color priority. I don't know. The main menu thing, you can customize your UI and stuff. That's going to be fun. R code, customize your R code, rusty plate, whatever character select. It's going to be changed. I think there's one more row. Whatever, you can change your accessories. That's true. Do they say anything about them being paid or DLC? Doesn't look like it. So it looks like things like the soul weapon, Jacko's mask, changing Asuka's name will now be within that accessory functionality, instead of being this kind of weird Easter egg where you have to like hold a button while selecting the character. Which is pretty cool. Attack interval in training mode. Okay, that's cool, I guess. I'm not sure what the implications are for that change. Okay, Vanquisher subdivisions, which is cool because, as you guys probably know, the game pushes everyone towards a Vanquisher. That's basically the norm in fighting games, where rank anxiety is a real thing. You don't want people to reach a certain rank and then feel like if they keep playing they might de-rank. So you push everyone kind of towards at least the equivalent of like a diamond or a master's rank. In Street Fighter, you get like a plus 50, minus 40 at equal skill. And you never lose more than 40, even if you play against worse opponent. And when you play against better opponent, you can get upwards of plus 200s up to Masters. Once you reach Masters, you gain a real MMR. They're doing the same thing in Vanquisher. You start at 1500, and then all the way to 1800, you'll be able to get more ranks. That's cool. Subdivisions within rank means there's like a bit more motivation to keep playing. Apart from like trying to reach rank 1, which obviously there's a big gap between getting into Vanquisher and getting rank 1, so that's nice. And then Imperious, or I guess the top 100, that's cool too. Retry with lower difficulty in arcade, that's cool. Don't really care about it. I think most people won't really utilize this because like the main purpose of doing arcade is to try to find the stage 9 Nagoriyuki, which requires you to have 0 losses. And finally, the balance changes. I'm not gonna read everything. Maybe I zoom it in a little bit. Sorry, I hit the mic. Maybe this is slightly better. Adjust balance, reevaluating offense, may change character, make it more challenging to gain major reward. I think that's a good thing. You don't want everyone to get a wall break off of everything. You don't want any hits to lead into a super, into a wall break, because it devalues hit confirming and stuff like that. I know they're also changing the wild assault thing. We'll see what that means later. Combo, ease of converting into combo. That's what I was talking about. A poke into a wall break, I guess. Common to see long range pokes as well as overhead and low leading to combos with heavy damage. We've ensured that combo requires taking risk or making preparation. Okay, so going for Oki is probably going to be nicer, which is, I think, is very cool. I think it's fun to go for resets, end your combo slightly early to go to a projectile. Obviously, like 2k2d into a projectile instead of 2k2d into a special move. I think that's really cool. So setting up Oki, going for a close slash starter for strike throw, going for a high-low with a projectile to follow up afterwards. Something to make the second combo more damaging. I think that's cool. Our intention is not to make the combo themselves weaker, but rather make it clear what kind of situations can lead to major benefits. So they're probably saying, in the corner you get a wall break, and in the mid-screen you get cornered. We'll see. Removing Wild Assault. I think it's been a long time coming. When Wild Assault came into the game, obviously you could use it to gain positive bonus, because it gave a hard knockdown, so there was no reason to end with a super, apart from if you ran out of burst or if it was gonna kill. It was very weird. It made the game extremely slow volley, and it made a lot of decisions around wall break much more linear. You never would go for a wall slump, basically, because it was just always better to take positive bonus, and the hard knockdown meant you kept very tight pressure. So we added Wild Assault in Season 3. Original intent was to make it an attack that felt intuitive to use. Use case expanded, change into something that requires practice and knowledge to use its full potential, whatever. In alignment with our intention to emphasize a clear switch between offense and defense and the balance, we decided to move Wild Assault from this version after, just remove Wild Assault after re-evaluating its place in the game. So there's Counter Blitz now. I guess it's being replaced with Counter Blitz, which is forward dust during counter hit. That's interesting. I'm not gonna read everything there's to say before I give my first thoughts, right? Obviously, first thing that comes to mind is counter hit confirming. This is really cool. Counter hit confirming is a very important part of the game, and having it become a much more universal mechanic makes it quite a bit nicer and allows for like more sharper balance change when it comes to changing the frame data on hit for moves, right? Notably, Anji's Far Slash leads into a very, very nice conversion on counter hit. But I've been kind of like skimming through the balance change, and I know that they're trying to make it so these types of long range counter hit pokes don't lead into massive combos from Fujin. So if the universal counter hit mechanics becomes go for a counter blitz, which I'm assuming it's gonna have a similar shape as Wall Assault, right? You do forward dust and it dashes you forward, sticks you close to the opponent, maybe launches them in the air, but the main idea is that after a counter blitz you'll be able to follow up with a better combo, but probably scaled more heavily. Anyway, that looks very cool. I'm excited to see what that's all about. I'm excited to see what combos there are to learn with counter blitz, but we're gonna see what they have to say about it right now. We added Counter Blitz as a new way to use Burst Gauge, costing 50% of Burst Gauge. That makes sense, that's what you would expect. If the final hit of the attack hits the opponent near the corner, it triggers a wall break. So instant wall break in the corner does not trigger from jabs, punch or kick. That makes sense. Special moves, normal, that can be cancelled. That makes sense. You'd expect this to only trigger on large counter hits, and it's not triggering it on special moves. Just means it's like more consistent. I guess you don't want some special move trigger counter hits, right? But you don't want to have special moves used as a frame trap that are usually not special cancelable now become special cancelable, because it means the risk reward for going into a special move. Notably, you could think of a Slayer Pile Bunker, right? Slayer can always end the block string in Pile Bunker, making him a string minus, but if he hits, he gets his turn back, he does damage. But if you could also follow up that Pile Bunker into a counter blitz, the risk reward would just be a bit too advantageous, and you would just get way too much damage off of this 50-50, because obviously you try to stuff the Pile Bunker, because the 50-50 is either Slayer ends his turn, so you mash, or he goes for you mashing and tries to stuff your mash. So that makes sense. Just looking at the image, I figured, okay, yeah, you hit a Far Slash, you hit a Heavy Slash, and then you hit confirm it into counter blitz. That makes sense. That's cool. Tied directly to counter hit as a mechanic, making it intuitive way to continue attack. That makes sense. While easy to use at play level, something that needs to be incorporated by play, we expect it to provide more factors to weight players who value battle strategy and management of burst gauge. That's true. You're not always obligated to take it. You can always say, I got a counter hit, but I'm gonna go for my B&B just to get a knockdown or whatever, save the burst gauge for later. It will serve as a mean of rewarding decision making based on the situation rather than one-sidedly making offense stronger, which was basically what Wall Assault was. That makes sense. Damage state hurt boxes. Revise the hurt box of characters when they are in the damage state or blocking. Some combos only possible as a character, so they're just, I guess, uniforming the hurt boxes. Standard hurt box versus large standard hurt box, versus large hurt box. Making it clear when the combo will succeed. There are 2 standard hurt box sizes. Okay, this addresses the significant difference in possible combo for the character, making for clear decision. Okay, we'll see what it looks like. I'm assuming it's not going to be something too visual, but maybe you know, moves are going to connect more intuitively. Hitboxes. New attack hitboxes that only hit when the opponent is taking damage or blocking. Follow-up hitboxes. Okay, so hitboxes that don't show up on whiff. That makes sense. Close slash, we have changed the part of high altitude hitboxes to follow-up hitboxes. Okay, so I'm assuming this means close slash NTR is weaker, but on hit in a combo, the close slash will have the exact same shape. So comboing into a close slash of an opponent you launched in the air will be the same. Close slash at point blank will be the same. Jumping out of a close slash on defense should be the same. But NTR close slash will be weaker, which is good. NTR close slash was a bit too strong, especially when you consider the counter hit you trigger off of that strong attack, right? 6 speed triggers a counter hit, close slash triggers a counter hit, and counter hit close slash in the air leads it to way too much damage. Yeah, okay, they're just saying it here. Different NTR potential for each character. Characters like Slayer or Anji, just very good close slash NTRs, right? And it meant they had more air NTR options than the rest of the cast. It was a bit stupid. It's gonna be a bit sad to see that close slash gone, because it especially has a nice arc to hit people right above you, whereas 6P kind of like throws your character forward a little bit, so 6P isn't as intuitive to use against an opponent that's directly above your head. But still, I think it's a nice change overall, and I'm glad to see close slash NTR being uniformed to make it like weaker and the same for everyone. 6P is your NTR option. Psych Burst and Deflect Shield Command. Okay. No! No way! Oh, that's sad. Okay, hold on. Let's just read it. Deflect Shield would sometimes activate unintentionally. That makes sense. So Deflect Shield is going to be a back input plus a button, so that it's no longer a quarter circle forward or backwards, right? But Burst is now only be able... You can only do Burst with a slash or heavy slash, because holding back plus dust plus punch or dust plus kick while blocking, or maybe not even while blocking because you're just holding back, will give you Deflect Shield. Can be done while crouching or while jumping, I guess. But because these buttons are now being used to signify Deflect Shield, you can only burst with dust plus slash, and the way my buttons are set up, I always bursted with dust plus kick, just because my kick and dust are next to each other. Because kick and dust 2K2D is something you do very often. That's slightly unfortunate. I'm gonna have to basically relearn how to burst. That's crazy. But I think that's a good trade overall. It happened very, very often. You try to tech throw from crouch and then you get a Deflect Shield. You try to do a throw tech on your own offense from a crouching move, and then you get Wall Assault. It always feels very awkward. I think this is a good change. And yeah, dust is now a different input. Maybe I'm gonna have to use burst macro. I don't know about it dust. I need burst. Clearly distinct command. Yeah. People that use the original control may need to adjust sense for the inputs. That's me. But I agree with the change. I think it makes sense overall. It just I might have to be a little bit more deliberate when I burst. And it might actually help me. Maybe I'm gonna burst with my old input and realize, wait, hold on, I don't want to burst. I can get burst baited, and then do a more mindful burst afterwards. Gold Psych Burst. Revise the input buffer to make so that blue sabers will not activate if the input is input within 4 frames directly before waking up. So if you wake up and you do a burst slightly before being able to act, you'll get the gold burst. As opposed to before, where if you do a burst while knocked down, for example, you automatically blue burst. So wake up gold burst has a slightly easier window. That's a good change. Obviously, you don't want people getting blue burst on accident because it's such a heavy investment. But gold burst is so weird as a mechanic. It's so weird to still be in the game. Anyway, if you input side bursting that well though, you get the gold burst. That makes sense. Purple Roman cancel. Let's see what it does. I don't need to read any of this, right? We get it. We get it. You get knocked down, you gold burst, and then you get blue burst on accident. They're making gold burst easier. Purple RC. I know that they're removing throw purple RC, so we'll see what happens to purple RC. Works as a way to create advantageous situation while limiting the opponent's ability to punish you. However, they made it possible to deal extremely high damage upon a successful read from an advantageous situation. Purple is used while the opponent is not taking damage. Damage proration is applied for a set duration afterwards. This proration does not apply in situations where the opponent is already taking damage, such as during combos. The limit this damage functions as a means to create an advantageous situation. Okay, so purple RC is a Roman cancel you get when you whiff move. When you're in the middle of an attack, you can purple RC. When you're doing nothing, you get blue RC. When you're in the middle of a hit, or an attack that gets blocked, but anything that connects, you get red RC. And purple RC is for canceling a move early off of anything else. Notably, you purple RC your projectiles because your projectiles are never connecting with the opponent. It was possible to go whiff, throw, purple RC, and because of the slowdown, you would then whiff punish your opponents trying to punish your throw, and that was extremely weird. So we adjusted so that when you purple RC while the opponent is not taking damage, damage proration is applied, meaning you whiff a throw, you backdash purple RC to create a bit of distance and time slow. If your opponent presses to try to whiff punish your throw, you just trigger this condition of purple RCing when your opponent is not taking damage, meaning your follow-up combo is going to have heavy damage scaling, so you don't get as big of a punish for your opponent basically reacting to what you did, but just having less meter, because obviously if you both have 50 meter, you will both purple RC, but still, this is a good change overall. Purple RC is still possible, you can still use meter to get out of a sticky situation when you whiff, but you can no longer set up your opponent to whiff from a purple RC and then get your punish on top of that afterwards. So I think that's a good change. That's a good change, and we'll talk about throw now. When used with tension gauge accumulated, throw was not only an effective defensive option, but it could also create situations. Make it impossible. Okay, well, that's another thing. Okay, I swear, like, Arxis is the way they structure their patch notes makes it so sometimes you assume wrongly, right? I remember during season 4, I looked at the change and I was like, oh, they're making it easier for Potemkin to Kara his moves. And then later on in the patch, you see the change that says, oh yeah, 6k is no longer Kara cancelable. So it's like, what? I just made this assumption about all these different aspects of Potemkin's play, and now I found out that I was actually wrong the entire time. These were move changes because you can no longer Kara. So you can no longer Roman cancel at the run with. I was just talking about, okay, like, okay, they're increasing the damage scaling so that when you whiff a throw, you don't get a big combo, you just get a small combo. No, actually, you just get nothing. So now, Purple RC is really the tool you use after you make a mistake. It's not, well, I guess, except for throws, right? If you fuck up a throw, you get punished. So if your opponent backdashes your throw, day one, that's good. That's good. Like, you don't want people to be able to Roman cancel their DP. They removed Roman canceling DP, but they hadn't removed Roman canceling throws yet. Now, if the defender makes the correct guess, which is usually a risky option, right? Blocking a DP is usually risking you losing your turn, and backdashing a throw is risking taking an airborne media hit, which can lead to devastating damage. Now the defender actually gets to take back his turn. But you can still whiff a move, maybe because your opponent jumps, maybe because your opponent spends meter of their own, and purple RC afterwards, but you can't purple RC throw. I see, that makes sense. Normal throw, they can no longer be covered with purple Roman cancel on whiff, that makes sense. Throw tech has a brief time from activation until it was possible to move against very close range, making it challenging. Extended the screen freeze and added distance after the tech. I like that. I like that throw tech. Kind of like pauses the game a little more to give both players time to react and reassess to the situation. In addition to these changes, command grab no longer have throw invulnerable. Whoa, okay, hold on. Command grabs are no longer throw invul. So, okay, you still can tag them. That's what I was wondering. Yeah, that makes sense because at certain ranges, you couldn't punish them, and they'd beat an opponent going for a throw tech. But now if you throw tech a command grab, you might be able to grab it before it comes out. That makes sense. I like that change. I like these changes overall. I like these purple Roman cancel change. I like these cheesy mechanics where you just use meter to just be too powerful. Obviously you want to use meter to get an advantage, but like, yeah, using meter to like cancel a DP that was blocked or cancel a throw that was with, that's a bit too much. So I'm glad they're doing that. Reassess the risk reward, various action with invincibility. Okay, so DPs and super, what are they gonna say about DPs and super? Invincible special moves, we have adjusted the situation on hit and block while maintaining their rolls at reversal, adjusted the blowback and recover the invincible move. That could lead into Okizeme on a hit. Okay, so I'm assuming this means every DP in the game now resets to neutral, whereas previously Leo hitting a DP, for example, allowed him to go into back stance and run his offense, which was a bit too powerful for something you do as kind of like your stupid defensive option that's supposed to have very little reward. Easier to punish when blocked, I like that too. There's a lot of DPs that push you a bit too far away. Sin notably has the stupidest DP to punish, and while it used to be special cancelable on block, it was even harder. It was very stupid. I remember losing a tournament and a chance at top 8 because I was playing against a Sin which is DP every time, and it's almost impossible to punish, and if you don't punish, he spends 1 energy and runs his pressure from a DP. So yeah, I like that. Easier to punish when blocked. Adjusted the mechanics for invisible supers. Let's see what they have to say. Can be RC'd. Okay, I like that. I'm not sure what to think about it entirely because they're obviously a lot more expensive than DPs. Someone doing DP RC is like, okay, you're stupid, fuck you. But someone doing super RC, spending 100 meter to say, hey, I'm spending 100 meter and I'm invincible and I'm resetting into my offense. I think this was an okay like investment to have in the game. It was an interesting decision to make, but sometimes the situation just made it so you always did so. Like you're at low health, you always spend 100 meter to get your pressure going, and yeah, I'm not that excited about seeing it gone compared to DPRC and Throw RC, but I think that's cool. Okay. Backdash is a type of invincible action, so it can no longer be Roman cancelled. Some strings, we've made it no longer to put... No, dude. Are you serious? You can no longer backdash BRC? We'll have to see. Because there is a way to do backdash BRC while grounded. You do backdash while crouching to Kara your backdash into a BRC. Fuck, dude, if we lose backdash BRC, that's stupid, because... Come on, bro. It's so cool to do a backdash BRC. Come on, bro. Please let me have this, bro. Please let me have backdash BRC. Fuck! That change really sucks. Who gives a shit about backdash BRC? You backdash and you BRC to sometimes be able to dodge certain strikes? Come on, bro. Who cares? Let me backdash BRC, bro. Let me backdash BRC into an overhead. We made it no longer possible to Roman cancel to manage situations. But, okay, once again, this is another change that certain characters are able to backdash BRC into an overhead. And so I'm hoping that from this, we get better overheads. Anji notably had his overhead gutted in Season 4, but you don't overhead for a combo, you overhead for a knockdown, and then you set up a backdash BRC for 50 meter, and then get a big combo going for 50 meter. That was the design philosophy they talked about earlier too, right? Setting up Oki, getting a big combo. So if it's no longer possible to backdash BRC, I hope that it's now possible to combo from an overhead. I'll have to see. This sucks though. This one change really sucks, and it lowers the game's complexity by quite a bit. And it's a very cool mechanic to learn, and it's a very cool mechanic to defend against. And I think the game is gonna feel a bit lacking without backdash BRC overheads. And with the mechanic for FD, 2 attacks simultaneously while you have the target could perform an attack. Bolting Faustless defense will now result in the blocking animation, so you will force yourself to block, I'm assuming. If you walk backwards with 2 buttons, I'm assuming this means you'll always FD. If you have no tension gauge, it will result in additional knockback and chip damage notifications unique to faultless defense. Okay, so you will FD, but it will be a normal block. Certain activations could be delayed. These mechanics just so they can normally be delayed. You guys probably noticed you can just hold FD as Nago and never pop. Just wait there, which is odd because it's just weird. You just have the Nago waiting there, and then both players just wait there for no reason. So I'm glad to see that gone. Wall break. Possible for character to get a powerful mix-up while maintaining offense after a hard knockdown. That makes sense. We've adjusted so that if the wall stick is triggered with grounded damage, they perform the tech. No more wall slump! That's crazy. No more wall slump. That's unfortunate. But once again, that's another thing where certain characters would benefit from wall slump way too much, notably Happy Chaos and Ino. And because these characters benefited from it so much, you couldn't balance wall slump as a universal mechanic. Certain characters like Anji were like basically middle of the pack, where it's like Anji might have been like the third most powerful wall slump user, but he's so far away from both Happy Chaos and Ino that it still basically makes zero sense to ever go for one. You'd much rather get a wall break. Basically what I'm saying is that the characters that utilize wall slump too well made it so it had to be bad for everyone else. So it made it so, you couldn't have a game where everyone uses it equally, because in a game where everyone uses it equally, Happy Chaos benefits from it too much. And so that's a good change. Getting wall slumps kind of sucked too. Actually, now that I'm thinking about it, Zato benefits from it too, I guess. I kind of forgot about Zato. But yeah, now you force the attacker to wall break, even if they don't have super, meaning you get to leave the corner after a while. Whereas before with Happy Chaos and Zato and Ino, you sit in the corner forever if they wanted to keep the wall slump, and then they get super for a wall break, and then they keep their pressure going. So that's a good change to be gone overall. Low profile moves. Crouching kicks with low profile had their hitbox extended upwards. What about crouching dusts, huh? Damage dealt by attack that move forward while in a low profile stance. Heavy damage proration. Combo blowback. Okay, so low profiling moves is going to be more difficult, but they don't talk about crouch dust. Some characters like Sol and Anji have a very, very low sweep that can be used to go under projectiles. So they're not talking about that, they're only talking about crouching kicks. But we'll have to see probably in the character specific things. Damage proration, whatever. So these type of moves are gonna have more damage scaling moves with fast startup. Set the moves. Whoa, that's crazy. Hold on, I just look at the time. We're 30 minutes into the video, so I kind of have to speed it up. But that is crazy. That's insane. That's insane to say a character like Chipp, who could say, okay, I'm extremely squishy, but I can win when mashing and have opportunities to get out of pressure that other characters can't. I have a 3-frame move, so Badguy had a 3-frame kick. Not Ino. A.B.A, Baiken, and who else? Millia have 4-frame moves. Now everyone has a 5-frame punch, I guess, or maybe 5-frame 2B. But that's a really interesting change. That's gonna be really interesting. That means like where everyone is now like on equal footing when it comes to being minus. There's no longer some weird matchup like exclusive things where like someone is -1 but they have a 4-frame jab, so against your 5-frame jab it's like they're actually 0 and then the jabs clash, and then because I have a jab that's 1 frame faster, after the clash my second jab wins, whatever. That's very, very cool. Revise the timing when Sisp when enters a low stance. I don't know what that means. Different 6B would enter a low profile stance. Okay, so just upper body invulnerability. So we made it so after frame 4 everyone is upper body invuln. That makes sense. Interrupt strings less dependent on the characters, and I'm assuming this means that 6Bing through a projectile is going to be slightly more difficult. Damage rates on counter hit was increased by 10% and then 20 depending on risk. We removed the damage modifier on counter hit, and counter hit is now only a slowdown effect, so it's for hit confirming. Still valuable to hit, keeping the damage appropriate. Charge commands, reevaluating the condition for charge commands. It used to be 30 frames, now it's 25 frames, so the game is going to be a bit more faster for charge characters. And I guess it means what? Charge into a forward move is going to be a bit easier. We'll have to see. This is everything we saw. I just basically read the large explanation, but no, there's actually a bit of new stuff, right? Let's just go over it real quick. Wall stuff removed, counter hits added, hurt box, we saw that. Follow up hitbox for close slash, we saw that. Psych burst increase, change the controls, same thing for deflect shield. Purple RC can be cancelled on whiff for throws. All throws, we see that. Throw clash, bigger distance, we saw that, and the recovery is going to be 10 frames lower. Backdash can be blue and cancel, sad. FD can be done with 0 meter without getting a button. Wall stick no longer wall slump. Positive bonus, tension penalty state duration is no longer reduced. I'm not sure what this means exactly. I'm assuming if you have tension penalty because you were being defensive, but then you get a wall break, then your positive bonus is at 100% effectiveness. Lunging attack, so move that go forward, increase damage scaling. Low profile, increase damage scaling. Overhead special move, increase damage scaling. Projectile damage scaling. 6B damage scaling. Or no, just P starter, sorry, damage scaling. Counter hit, no longer gets bonus damage. Wall bounce. Strength of the wall bounce is affected by combo blowback scaling, so it's no longer going to be as uniform, I guess. Like getting a wall bounce late into a combo gave you the same wall bounce as getting a wall bounce early. So now wall bounce scales with gravity. Risk level turns red at 75%, meaning you get more meter as the attacker when, or is that as a defender? Yeah, I think it's a defender. When as a defender you have red risk, you start building meter more, I guess. You build more meter. If you get hit during a jump startup, it's going to say punish. That makes sense. Landing and recovery, this is fixed an issue. I guess you could cancel landing and recovery with another action. That makes sense, actually. I don't remember what it was. I think it was Bandit Ringer for Sol. You could like cancel the landing of Bandit Ringer in certain situations. It was weird. Projectile, proximity requirements on projectile clashes. Okay, so they could clash at point blank, I guess. We'll see. Tension gauge, burst gauge, no longer increase when combo blowback scaling its specific amount. Guard crush, throws that can connect during combos no longer hit opponents who are in guard crush. So you can't throw, no, can connect, no longer hit. Okay, that makes sense. That's what I was thinking the first time. You can no longer throw from a guard crush. That's weird, no? That means Potemkin hitting a Garuda impact can't get a command grab? That's weird. We'll see that. Anyway, that's it for the universal change. We're 33 minutes in. Let's go into the characters now. And I'm going to stop reading the overviews. I'm just going to go for the move. We saw that the fastest move is now 5 frames for everyone. So Badguy had a 4-frame move, now it's 5 frames. This is a universal change. They made it so it becomes fully upper body invuln after frame 4 instead of frame 3. This is going to be the same for each characters. A slight nerf on crouch and kick. But I'm just gonna scout right now. We're just gonna scout here. Do they say anything about Kai's crouching kick or May's crouching kick? No, never mind. I was just gonna see if a 6K crouching kick, 6 frames crouching kick, sorry, was universal. Doesn't look like it's universal. Just a slight nerf for Soul. Close slash, we saw that. Reduce the upper hitbox. Crouching slash reduced knockback on hits. That's cool. That means it's going to be easier to combo from at long range, especially with the new Wild Assault, right? Whatever it was called, the counter blitz, counter hit, 2S is not going to push them as far away as it did before, so you'll be able to confirm it easier. Jumpy, 1 frame slower. Gun flame, better startup. Frame advantage on block at point blank, it's worse. Number of pillars changed from 4 to 5, so the projectile goes forward more. And active frame of each pillar goes down, so it's going to go far forward more at a faster pace. Gun feint now moves forward, so you no longer need to car it manually, that's good. And if you car it, I'm assuming you're going to move even more. Counter hit removed on DP. Landing recovery massively increased so that it's easier to punish. Frame advantage on a hit is only +5, so you get basically a situation with the neutral. And on block -40, that makes sense because there's 12 more frames of recovery. Volcanic Viper can now be followed up with the new special move, Sidewinder Ignited, which is DP follow-up. Remove the clean hit property. No more clean hit heavy DP, that's sad. Come on, that was such a cool part of Soul Kit. Decrease the damage of this, damage of the second hit increased because there's no longer clean hit, that makes sense. So now you use heavy DP to go into follow-up. The ground version, I guess. 1 more frames of startup, reduced upward movement speed, reduced gravity scaling, global adjustment, whatever. Making it harder to carry momentum, yeah, because there's removing the clean hit, so maybe Roman cancelling it might give you less corner carry as well. So forward heavy slash after heavy DP, no move. Bandit revolver on the ground, reduced upward movement speed, lands faster than before, that makes sense. Landing recovery increased. Bandit bringer, proximity requirement permanent ticket for hitting an opponent behind yourself, that makes sense, so you can go under it easier. Reduce knockback on hit, I guess. Wild throw, no longer throw invuln, so you can throw a wild throw if you try to throw tech and they do it late. Fafnir, removed wall bounce effect on clean hit and added a tumble instead. That's cool, actually. We'll see what the tumble does, but the tumble from Exert on counter hit is like blah, blah, and then the opponent goes full screen like and that's cool. I think it's a cool thing for Soul to have. Tyrant Rave in the counter hit state until the end of recovery, so you no longer have to punish in between the 2 hits. That's good. They were talking about making each super a bit more uniform to punish. Can no longer be cancelled. Clean hit no longer occurs when hitting as the first hit in a combo. Meaning if you wake up Tyrant Rave, you can't clean hit. You have to combo into it. That makes sense. Air backdash, expanded hurtbox for Kai, so slight nerf. Close slash, hitbox adjustment. We see this for all close slashes. Far slash, increased recovery, easier to whiff punish. Crowd slash, increased recovery as well. Stun edge, followed up with lightning strike. That's the new move. You can go projectile into lightning strike, which is basically a vertical pillar. I'm assuming you can use it for people trying to jump over your projectile. You can do this for both projectile, both the small and big ones. Charge, stun edge during dragon install. Frame data change, so hit stop goes down, frame advantage goes down. Lightning strike added, stun dipper, follow-up hitbox to the upper part of the second hitbox, so easier to punish, I guess. You don't want it to low profile everything. Quarter circle back kick during dragon install, increased knockback on hit, so it probably infinites a bit less. Counter hit removed for DP. Increased landing recovery for DP. Decreased launch height for DP. I'm assuming this is gonna make it less advantage on hits. Yeah, they talk about this here. Ride the lightning, can't counter hit. A counter hit until the end of recovery. Can't VRC. May. Once again, fast move becomes 5 frames. Expanded hurt box upward on crouching kick, so I guess it's gonna be slightly better at catching up when trying to jump. 3 kick, horizontal proximity requirement, that makes sense. Close slash, we see this for every close slash. Standing heavy, increased recovery, less advantages on block. Sweep, expanded hurt box, so punishing a sweep. Okay, that makes sense. Expanded hurt box, sorry, I realized I was thinking hitbox, but it's hurt box, so low profiling with a sweep is going to be harder. They don't talk about that with Soul, right? Soul still gets to sweep. To sweep to go on the projectile, but I guess May they don't want for doing that. Mr. Dolphin, we saw that. That's a universal change. Charge moves are faster. Expanded the push block on a successful attack. That makes sense. Reduce knockback on hit. Remove the stagger effect on counter hit. That's cool because the stagger can no longer be cancelled into a throw. or a command grab rather. Increased upward movement speed on block. Reduced upward movement speed on hit. Blowback adjustment. Okay, that makes sense. Reduced knockback for the heavy version. The down up, once again, smaller charge time. Remove the mechanic that changed movement while holding P, so you could like adjust whether you went far or near, so that's removed. It's now mid. The decrease in part is a mid instead of an overhead. Increased knockback. The distance from the opponent above a certain amount. Forward movement speed now increases depending on the distance. So if your opponent is far away and you do the down up heavy, you will catch up with them at a similar speed as if they were close to you, I'm assuming. Removes throw invincibility on the command grab. Counter his state, no longer LC. Makes sense. Crouching kick. No longer low profiles. 6k. Decreased launch height on ground hit. Hitbox downward during startup. Okay. Close slash. Change attack hitbox above the second height into follow up hitboxes. Crouching heavy. Damage during the first half. Decreased. Damage during the second half. Decreased. Forward heavy is now mid instead of an overhead. With better startup, better damage scaling, decreased combo blowback if it's the first hit, reduced knockback on the second half of the active frame, so if it reaches far. Expands hitbox forward for the first half of the active frames. Okay. Sickle slash, better recovery, so it's less minus. Up after sickle slash, worse recovery, or on block. Hit stop apply on block, so it's actually more advantageous on block, sorry. Spinning chain, strengthen the vacuum, now ends when the active frames end, now pulls the opponent in when hitting any part other than the final hit. Increased knockback on hit. Okay, change to a low physical attack. When hitting a grounded opponent as the first hit in a combo, the standard lock-on cinematic occurs. Hold on, what? So, Axl's command grab is now a low. That's weird. It used to be a command grab. You used to either need to jump it or backdash it. Now it's just a low. So if you low block from full screen, you can't get command grab. If you hit a grounded opponent, so someone who's not crouch blocking or just crouching but not blocking, the standard lock-on cinematic occurs. The lock-on cinematic no longer occurs when hitting an airborne opponent. That makes sense. Recovery severely reduced. Guard crush effect, frame advantage is now plus 23 at point blank, but at point blank it comes from much further away, right? Because it has to come from the end of the screen all the way up to you. But I'm assuming in the corner, because the corner kind of like sets a limit to how far the screen can go, it's gonna be quite advantageous to throw it in to get a guard crush and be plus 23. That's crazy. But okay, no longer a command grab though. So I think it's a nerf overall, but it has a new purpose, right? Snail, reduced knockback in the air, removed wall bounce, rainwater, reduced launch height. The hold version of rainwater is going to be active for a full second less than before, and sickle storm counter hit until the end of recovery. Axl is another one where, depending on when you punished it, actually if you blocked the second hit, it was actually safe, so you needed to jump in between the two hits. Another one that's just a knowledge check, so it's good for supers to be more uniformed when it comes to punching them. Sending P5 frames. Universal change. Can no longer be cancelled into crouching heavy on whiff. That's a big nerf. That used to be a very unique thing about Chipp. Cancelling his crouching slash on whiff was a very unique and meaningful tool. Now you no longer do that. Alpha Blade can now be followed up with another Alpha Blade. So you can go into the same blade twice. When activated as a follow-up from Alpha Blade. Specifications have been completely revised. Remove the slight knockback that occurred when the projectile touched something. We'll have to see what this means in game right there. Counter hit removed on DP. For decreased launch height for the kick blade. Increased recovery for the DP, that's universal. Reduced knockback, that's universal. Wall run, remove the slight knockback that occurred when the projectile touched something. Okay. Punch during wall run damage. Okay, so it looks like everything during wall run deals less damage. That's crazy actually, because I guess Chipp's damage after a wall run into like 5 heavies did quite a lot. And the final hit deals less damage too. That's actually a pretty big nerf to damage for Chipp. Recovery for tightrope increased, but duration also severely decreased. That's like 1.5 seconds less. Attacks during tightrope also deal less damage. So Chipp, large damage nerf, but Alpha Blade is getting slight buff, I think. Because you can go Alpha Blade into Alpha Blade, meaning you can go right, left, right forever until they actually punish. Well, we'll see actually. Potemkin. Increase his walk speed. This is universal, this is universal. Launches on grounded hit. Forward heavy. Moves forward during the action. Less damage. Active frames longer. Jump dust. Expanded the hurt box downward so easier to anti-air. Potemkin Buster. Removed armor! Removed armor and throwing build, that's cool. It was kind of silly. It was kind of silly getting Potemkin Buster, like, because you messed up your OT, or just because you tried to play it a bit more safe against maybe his Wake Up Super. That was stupid. It's gone. Change the startup of Slide Head. Visual change. Okay. Hammerfall. Charge move. Universal change. Break. Ability to withstand low attacks. So it has armor, but not for lows, I guess. I'm not sure what this means. Projectiles reflected. Same explosions as the 30 frames after startup. The explosion now occurs closer than before. Hit stop for the explosion. Parts changed. Blowback adjustment. Heavenly Potemkin Buster. Counter hit state until the end of recovery can no longer be Roman cancelled. But this doesn't really matter because you go so high up in the air that you can basically never hit Potemkin during his recovery. Wow, that's a big nerf. That's an incredibly large nerf. It only stays on screen for 1 3/4 seconds, as opposed to like 11 seconds. Which is kind of crazy. Meaning now actually backing up from Potemkin wall means you can actually have it from out, but it's gonna move a lot faster and decelerate when touching the opponent. After deceleration is the original speed. So the combos are gonna stay the same. It's gonna push towards you faster, meaning it's no longer stalling out the game and having Potemkin walk at its default speed. I'm assuming Potemkin's speed is gonna match the increase in speed here. Maybe you'll have to Hammerfall behind it. Maybe it's gonna be so quick that you'll have to Hammerfall behind it. But I think that's a good change. It was kind of stupid. You just kind of like, not checkmate your opponent, but you basically force out a long interaction. Like, okay, the wall is here. We both know what's gonna happen. I'm gonna have to block it. I'm gonna have to eat your 50-50. But you don't have to have this kind of like slow aura farm walk for 11 seconds. That's cool. Cool change. That's universal. That's universal. Faust has like very, very low crouching move, so that makes sense. That's universal. It's universal. When he's kind of crawling on the ground, he's gonna have a slightly higher hitbox. Hopefully he can still go under projectiles. Maybe it's only when moving forward or backward actually. Maybe crouching while not moving will have the same hitbox. Mix can be interrupted with S when touching the opponent, so you can end it manually as opposed to having to whiff the final move manually, I'm assuming. That makes sense. It was kind of a difficult maneuver to learn and kind of unintuitive, so now you can probably just go 4 hits instead of 5, press S, end the move early, and then go into a combo. Snip snip, universal change. This, so love, increased launch hit of the explosion part. That's, okay, that's the move, right? That's when you throw your own head in the air. Increased launch height of the explosion part, but during Afro is going to be the same thing. Donut can be acquired while falling, same as Banana, same as Afro, same as Trumpet. If you have an Afro, you double the duration, I guess, but you refresh the duration rather. If you enter a hit stun state after the Afro is ignited by a fire attribute attack such as a Jumpy, the burning Afro now disappears. So, okay, so if you hit Faust, the Afro disappears. That's cool, because before you had to hit Faust, but still keep track of its lifespan so that you could block it in the middle of your own combo. It did lead into some cool situations where notably you could say, it's gonna blow up, so I'm gonna super to be invincible when it blows up. Stuff like that. But that's cool, that's a good change overall. Trumpet can be a fire when falling. Bone crushing experiment. Universal change. What could this be? Decreased recovery. Can store the final item, which increases the recovery because you do an additional action. Millia change, universal change, universal change, universal change, universal, universal, universal. Bad move. When activated above a certain altitude, granted opponent can no longer tech on landing. So if it hits from high enough in the air, it triggers a hard knockdown. That's a cool change. That means if you combo your opponent fire up, you can bad moon to make them land. That's cool. Tendon top. Increase the projectile forwards movement speed, so that's the S version, the one where you use to kind of combo off of, or just throw it as a small projectile. Iron Savior, counter hit removed, that's good. They talk about that, these kind of like forward low advancing move, they're making it weaker. The dash expanded hurt box upward. Less shaker, which is the move you spam. Slightly reduced recovery, so it's -4 instead of -5. That's going to make it universally safe because the fastest move are now all 5 frames. If you keep pressing, however, oh, it's -6. So it's -6 if you mash, and it's -4 if you hit confirm and don't mash. That's a good change. That's a cool change. Maximum press. So repeated press and maximum press. So if you really mash, then it's even more minus. Or it's actually less minus. It's slightly less minus if you really mash, but you create a lot of distance, so you're probably safe when you do this. Artemis, which is the new move, even though it's not that new now. Frame advantage on block is now -8. That's cool. Landing recovery severely increased, so you actually get to take back your turn. You probably can't punish it. Maybe a few characters can punish it, but this is a good change. This is your universal change. Zato, close slash, universal change. When cancelling Eddie's actions on the later half of the animation can be cancelled into float. Okay. Pierce, increased active frames, increased startup, decreased damage, increased hit stop, increased damage for the kick, decreased damage for lead, decreased damage for oppose, so big damage nerf for all of Eddie's moves. Float no longer consumes Eddie's life gauge during duration. Okay, so when you do it, Eddie basically stops the decay. Invite Hell, better startup, better active frames, better recovery. Damned Fan gets the command grab, universal change. Drunken Shade, decreased launch hit on counter hit. That's cool. Increased Eddie's recovery by 3 frames, so maybe you can punish it on block easier. And on the ground, increased recovery even further. The frame advantage on block at point blank is now -2, so you're minus. You can't just do it to keep your pressure forever. You do get your Eddie life back, but you're -2, so you're forced into a bad situation. Cool. Ramlethal changes. Universal, 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 sweep. Sweep has better recovery, so it's safe on block. Jump kick, decreased launch height on hit. Jump heavy, better recovery. S projectile, better startup, reduced knockback. Delay the explosion, so explosion happens half a second later. Since the startup is faster, there is no change to the frame advantage on block. Heavy sword, decreased blowback, decreased launch height from the sword. Not the DP, but the forward advancing DP motion for the punch. Reduce horizontal blowback, decrease launch height, so it's probably going to be harder to combo into rather. Quarter circle back heavy, which is the big move. Damage reduced when having 2 swords, 1 sword, or no swords. It used to be quite a lot of damage, especially because you can use it OTG. First hit of the quarter circle back, so that's the Rekka move. First hit, decrease launch height on air hit. Maybe to make it more consistently follow up into the second moves. Third hit, reduced guard crush duration of the enhanced version. Hondo, which is the rock. Better startup, better recovery, worse attack level, and slightly safer. Strengthen the vacuum effect, which is kind of crazy. And then universal change for the super. Leo has his new move, we'll have to see what it is. These are all universal. Attack level for heavy goes down, frame advantage goes down. Forward heavy, No longer launches the opponent on ground hit. Sweep, harder to carry momentum. Reduced forward move speed. Projectile, less charge. You need to charge it for less. Same for the DP. Remove counter hit. This is a universal change for DP. Increased forward movement speed. Increased landing recovery. Frame advantage goes slightly down. So quarter circle forward heavy while in the stance. I don't remember what this move is actually. Fix an issue. It's just fix an issue. Who cares? Quarter circle back S. That's the weird overhead thing. Reduce knockback on block. Dash and stance fix an issue. Jump during stance added. Air moves during stance added. So P during stance can be cancelled into a jump. K can be cancelled into a jump. Slash can be cancelled into a jump. Dust during stance, recovery increased. The animation does not transition to cinematic with an attack. Recovery is now reduced by 3 frames. Super is no longer perma cancel. That's a universal change. Nago is our final character to get a new move, right? We had Sol, Kai, Leo, and now Nago. And speaking of Nago, we're nearing the end of the Season 0 base roster character, so that's cool. Defense modifier is slightly better because you multiply damage taken into this number. So when you're at level 2 blood, you take less damage. When you're at level 3 blood, you take more damage than normally, but still less damage than before. Universal change. Sending heavy, reduce startup when blood gauge is level 2. Does normals become better as your blood gauge increases as Nago. Crouching heavy, increase recovery for these 3 moves. You recover more blood gauge, that makes sense. Command normal 5, so slash, reduce wall rate gain value. Blood Rage, no longer be delayed by a D, that's a universal change, we knew that. Reduce the depletion speed of blood gauge, meaning when you're in Blood Rage, you're in Blood Rage for longer, I think. New move, quarter circle backslash to kind of slam your sword into the ground. Bloodsucking Universe, no longer Thornville, and this is universal. What do they have to say about the command grab though? Change the behavior of the Blood Moon upon success. Previously, the blood gauge continued to decrease over a set period, but going forward, the blood gauge will decrease by a fixed amount instantly. That's cool. That's cool. That means if you do it after doing 11 special moves, instead of not popping at all, you probably decrease your amount, delaying your pop. So if you keep winning the 50-50, you can delay your pop forever, but you probably still pop after you get that blood reduction. Geo, Hurt Box, that makes sense, that's universal. Enhanced State is now maintained for a set period after spending your meter, that's cool. It's a very kind of like not that useful mechanic. It's a cool mechanic, right? You forget to spend your meter, you get bonus stats. But now they make it so after you spend the super or after you RC or whatever, you still keep the damage for a bit longer. So that's nice. Universal change, universal change, universal change, universal change. Jumping Dust. Startup of the second hit increase, so these 2 hits are going to connect closer to together. This probably means that specific combos on grounded opponents with a large body like Potemkin, where you go standing far kick, you go like a kick, into a jump slash, into a heavy, into a dust, and then the second hit of the dust links into a crouching kick, and it's a weird combo. This probably means that combo doesn't work anymore because these 2 hits connect closer together, so you get basically less hit stun afterwards. Quarter circle back kick, better recovery, better on block. Back kick after being empowered, slightly worse recovery actually. DP move, or the forwards S while empowered. Expanded hitbox upward, so it's better at anti-airing. Expanded hitbox backward, so it's better at hitting people who jump above you and kind of cross up. Universal change for super. Easier for the attacked during the cinematic to hit the opponent when transitioning to the locked on cinematic on hit. We'll have to see what this means. It's probably just going to be more consistent to get the clean hit. Recovery on block increased, but it's not going to be a counter hit because it's not an invincible super. Anji, crouching kick, 1 frame faster. We love to see it. Universal change, universal change. What about his dust? Dust, blowback. They don't talk about his sweep, so his 2D still probably able to go on the projectile. Crouching heavy, moves the opponent, moves forward during the action actually. So going close slash into crouching heavy probably keeps your block string tighter and leads into a better situation on block. Or maybe on hit too, because on hit you move forward enough to not have to Kara every code, right? If you don't know how to Kara, you can be close enough to go into a close slash code. Jumping dust, reduce horizontal blowback after wall bounce, decrease launch height after wall bounce. This is another universal thing. Is gonna scale with gravity basically. Fujin can no longer be cancelled into Fujin. I knew that, so you can't cancel charge Fujin into Fujin. Instead, it triggers a stagger on hit and has enhanced follow-up. They don't talk about these enhanced follow-up, I don't think, unfortunately. We'll have to see what they are. I'm assuming they just have better frame data, maybe they launch higher, maybe they combo, whatever. So yeah, okay, so now charge Fujin is now an actual move instead of just you loop it, do it forever. It was weird. Nagiha, so this is the low follow-up, decreased launch height. You no longer are able to combo, apparently. We'll have to see what the combos look like, but you won't. The idea is that from mid-screen, you're not supposed to just combo from it. We'll have to see what this means. Rin, this is the overhead follow-up. Better advantage on block, because you have better recovery. Tech up on landing, so no hard knockdown. Ko, increased vertical combo blowback scaling for the second hit. So it pushes them less far, I think, which means it's gonna be easier to combo once again. This is what I'm assuming. Kick, this is the kick spin. Special damage scaling is now applied for 60 frames after withstanding an attack. So after a parry, you could say, or after an auto guard, you deal less damage. Interesting. It says special damage scaling is now applied. So it's like if you start a combo with a special move. Fish deals less damage. Slightly less duration for parry. Worse recovery. And you're in your counter hit state and you can't RC it. That's cool. Ino, we did it. We reached the end of season 0. And it only took 30 minutes. Air dash can now change when putting up or down. Air back dash, same thing. Universal change, universal change, universal change. Better startup on heavy. Better startup on forward heavy. Chemical Love. Removed wall bounce. It's not even adjusted, it's just removed. The new move. Reduce launch height. Remove the mechanic that allowed leaping up with an additional input. I'm not a Nino expert, I don't know what this mechanic was. But it's probably a good thing because it was probably an unintended mechanic. Whatever, blowback adjustment, reduce knockback on hit. S version, increase knockback on hit. And nothing for the heavy version. Wait, actually, this is a new move. Sorry, I missed that. I misinterpreted them earlier. Can now leap up with an additional input only on the final hit. Super, timing for throw and invuln now matches the attack startup. And universal change for super. Increased landing recovery, reduced applied gravity, frame advantage, much more negative, and the projectile effect no longer guards crush. So if you block the entire thing, they are minus. Now onto Goldlewis. This is universal, this is a buff to crouching kick, close slash, attack hitbox about a certain height, that's universal. Far slash, easier to carry momentum. More active frames. Crouching slash, universal change. Sending heavy, much better startup. Worse recovery. Frame advantage on block goes way down. All Behemoth Typhoons do less damage. Security level, use it when transitioning into Behemoth Typhoon, change from 50 to 100. So, when transitioning into Behemoth Typhoon. So if you cancel a Behemoth Typhoon into a Behemoth Typhoon, it costs 100% of your meter, I guess. So you can only do it once instead of twice. Now specific Behemoth Typhoons. This is the up to down from the back one. Decrease launch height. Down to up from the back, decrease launch height. Thunderbird, which is the projectile. Level 2 is a lot less active, level 3 is a lot less active. If it touches something, it still triggers until it would have, until the end, as if it had infinite duration, right? It's not gonna fizzle out because it hits you in frame 72 or something. Skyfish, that's the minigun. Number of projectile fired when not held is 12, so the minimum number of projectile is 12. Total duration 86, and this is a universal change. Jacko, these are all universal. This is universal too. Picking up a servant, fix an issue. We don't care about fixing an issue. Holding the button now changes the trajectory of the servant. If you hold forward while throwing them, that's cool. Countdown, servants now disappears if you enter a hit stun state. So if you hit Jacko during her having the minions attack you, the minions disappear, that's cool. And this is universal. So not that much changes for Jacko. Basically, you can adjust the arc of the servants you're throwing. This is like basically a universal. If Jacko gets hit, whatever she had thrown on you for Oki disappears, and that's it. So I'll have to see how she plays. She's gonna play very similarly. Alright, these I'm gonna assume they're all universal change. Crouching slash, reduce recovery, better advantage on block. Jumping down kick, now activated with jumping heavy. Along with this, it can no longer be cancelled into jumping kick or kick. Added a coupling combination into jumping heavy, so you can go jumping slash into jumping heavy. Added jumping heavy, activates the previous jumping crouching kick. So this is no longer a move, the move is now jumping heavy, meaning I'm assuming you can't shoot in the air. I'm not sure what this means exactly. I don't remember if you could shoot in the air, but now clearly you can't. Ground throw, reduced recovery, blowback adjustment, increased launch height, concentration. Gun unequip animation is no longer performed under concentration gauge is depleted by fire. So if you shoot, you no longer get the manual unequip, you probably get the exhaust animation at the ready. Smaller inbox to the previous word circle forward slash. Added with this, the properties has been completely revised, including attack level, hit back, counter hit level removed. Alright, so I'm assuming, I'm not sure actually. I'm not sure what this means. We'll have to see. Change to produce a hitbox similar to the previous quarter circle slash. So now just pressing heavy is gonna do the quarter circle slash move. Do they say like removed for this move? They don't even talk about it. But I'm assuming this move is no longer a thing. Reticle. The changes that are ready to move. Stance is now cancelled when jumping while holding the gun. Fire can no longer be used while the reticle is focused. Reticle now appears at the opponent's position instead of a random location. The reticle position no longer moves randomly when performing moves while the reticle is visible. Steady aim. Fire properties now change by inputting up or down. This is gonna say input buffer made fire frame earlier. Fire damage change, damage increase. Firing 6 times during the action now transforms into the at ready state. Cancel aim can no longer be cancelled with a brief period immediately after fire, so you can no longer cancel into reload into stance. That's cool. Reload can no longer be cancelled midway through the action. That's cool. Total duration increase. So now reload is clearly something you do on Oki as opposed to in between each shot. Focus, increase recovery. Roll, expanded hurt box. Scapegoat. Clone duration severely reduced. Hit stop when the clone sends its attack change to 5 frames. Curse, along with a change to at the ready, the specifications have been completely revised. Added a hitbox to the thrown ball. Added an effect that increases the damage of fire for Saturn when the projectile hits. The projectile now disappears upon touching the ground. Made it less affected by tension balance. Recovery increased. Reduces the projectile upward movement speed. So I'm assuming added a hitbox means you can hit it to destroy it. And remove a mechanic restores ammo. Super no longer restores ammo, that's kind of crazy. And slightly better startup. This is universal. 5 frame P, this is universal. Crouching P. Worse recovery, increased attack level, no longer changes. No change to the frame advantage on block. Universal, increased attack level for crouching slash. Probably so that you can counter hit into the new Wild Assault thing, the new counter blitz. Crouching heavy. No longer tech up on landing. Kabari, better recovery. Frame advantage goes up. Frame advantage on block goes up. Heavy Kabari, better startup. Opponent now takes up on landing. Yozansen, reduce downward hurt box during startup. So if you Tiger Knee it, it's no longer as easy to 2k it with a poke. Parry can no longer be activated during Deflect Shield. I'm not sure what this implies exactly. I'm not sure what the tech was, but I'm assuming you could Deflect Shield and parry at the same time to kind of option select. Increase recovery. Recovery by 7 frames when transitioning to the cinematic after withstanding an attack at close range. Frame advantage on a hit is severely worse, so you parry and you no longer gain extremely good OK afterwards. You just parry for your damage and you reset to neutral. If you don't trigger into the cinematic, the recovery is reduced by 7 frames, so going into the partial parry is going to be better, but the damage is going to be worse, and this is a universal change. Okay. Crouching kick for Testament. Universal change. Jumping kick, better active. Stain. While applying stain to the opponent that already has stain, up to 2 stain can be applied. Okay, what does this mean? The animation no longer stops during Super Flash up to a certain point with the animation. Okay, so you have 2 stains. Does this mean you trigger it twice for more damage, or does it mean after triggering it you get another one and another opportunity to trigger it next combo? Or is it the first hit triggers one and the second hit triggers the next one? That's up to you, right? Heavy projectile, worse recovery, worse on block. Heavy projectile, held, reduced projectile blowback. The Crow attack level is now attack level 0. Startup increased, recovery increased, so it's minus 12 on block after the first active frame. The Super increased projectile speed, so it's probably gonna give more corner carry, and this is a universal change. On to Season 2 now. Universal change. No, actually this isn't a universal change quite. Just reduce knockback on crouching P, reduce knockback on forward kick. This is a universal change. Command over forward. S after far slash, that's the 3rd far slash move. Reduce blowback. Stop and dash. Increase recovery. Rolling movement can now be activated on the ground even when the yo-yo is not deployed, but from a small leap, so you can do it even with no yo-yo for like a small leap. That makes sense. This is a universal change to DP, and this is not the super one, right? Because I guess I forgot the super isn't invisible. So kickstart my heart. Increase recovery, worse advantage on block. Sin. Universal, better heavy slash, frame advantage on block is better. Forward heavy slash, increase forward movement speed. Big driver, stagger effect on counter hit. Big driver follow up, reduce tumble. Hawk Baker does a DP, this is universal DP changes. No longer be cancelled when used as a combo starter. Counter hit removed, increase recovery, fix an issue, blowback, whatever. The universal changes for DP. S follow up, increase forward movement speed, and reduce knockback on hit. S follow up from Hook, Stomp, remove wall bounce. Elcon follow up, kick, fix an issue, we don't care about fix an issue. Still growing, eating food, remove the mechanic where our stat was going to be increased, added an effect that accelerates stamina recovery. Finally, eating food actually gives you stamina. I don't know what the fuck they were thinking, but like, yo, clearly Sin is about either doing a big damage combo that spends a lot of stamina, or ending your combo early to regain that stamina, right? But they made eat just the most useless move in the game for like 3 whole seasons. Finally, you can eat to gain stamina. That's gonna be fun. Ride the Lightning, that's the super, so universal changes to the super. Tyrant Barrel now notifies knockbacks applied to himself. As he is no longer affected by backwards knockback near the corner, it is easier to connect hits with max range pokes. That's cool. Because the first hit used to knock you back slightly, making the second hit whip sometime. Alright. Bedman. Universal change, universal change, universal change. Strengthening the vacuum on jumping slash. It already has a good vacuum effect, so that's going to be quite good. Jump D, remove the ability to jump cancel, meaning after you block it, you block the overhead, and now it can be a low. It's no longer overhead into maybe a jump into maybe another overhead. That was quite annoying to deal with. Landing and recovery decreased, however, to make it more advantageous since you have to land afterwards. This is a projectile, I think. R6E enhance now disappears if you enter a hit stun state. So okay, this is probably going to be the same thing for all thing. Right, this right here enters a hit stun, enters a hit stun. So if he has a follow-up ready with his R6E, which is just the automatic follow-up that happens after you do a move, it's no longer going to trigger after you hit him. The animation can be interrupted with a slash after startup. That's cool. Delay the timing when he starts falling. That's the bomb, I think, in the air. The error is now enhanced for the follow-up for the quarter circle back kick, and universal change for his super. Now onto the Asuka changes I was talking about earlier. We'll have to see what happens. So these perform chant synthesize. A special move is a spell that will set up a scepter corresponding to the selected case. Okay. But these used to be mana regeneration, so we'll have to see what happens. Universal change. What used to be an overhead is now a mid, but with better startup and better damage scaling. Test case, remove the staffs because they're now associated down on P. Remove the gravity staffs because once again it's down on kick. Remove the staffs, removes the staffs. Change the quantity of each spells. Chant, this is throwing a spell. Spell can now be cast even the mana cost is higher than the remaining amount, so you can cast a spell to exhaust your final mana and enter the previous state as opposed to just not be able to cast. This is summoning a staff depending on your spell. I'm assuming punch is going to be an accelerating one and kick is going to be a decelerating one, and it's either acceleration, high gravity, or remove gravity, or deceleration, low gravity, or repulsive, right? Recover mana. Oh no, let's do bookmark first. So discarding and acquiring spell is now done in a single motion. That's probably good quality of life. Instead of doing it twice, you only do it once. Recover mana. Remove the kick and the slash version to consume tension or health. So now you can only recover mana through what used to be the normal down P1, which means you get less mana. That's it. It's that simple. You get less mana, and you'd assume, okay, you get less mana, so clearly the spells are going to be adjusted to cost less, but no, they each cost more. Basically, every single spell costs more. So you get less mana, your spells cost more, your reduced mana cost is decreased, so the spell that makes your spell cheaper is twice as worth. It's weird, dude. It's weird. You'd assume all these changes lead to this saying, okay, well, we're simplifying the character, right? You reload your cards automatically, you no longer need to spend your health, you no longer need to spend drive, you can cast spell even when you're out of mana for like one final attack. And as the drawback, right, you get slightly worse mana because you can't say I'm going to spend my health to get a lot of mana, but you still gain more mana than before. You'd expect that to be the trade-off. But instead you just gain less everything, so it's gonna be ass unless there's something we're missing here, but it looks like it's gonna be ass. So each spell costs a fuck ton more mana, and some of them added a guard rush effect, removed guard rush effect on this one. Sorry. Anyway. Oh, there's another one coming? Maybe no. Anyway, these are weird changes. These are very weird changes. You'd really expect this to say, okay, the normal mana regen one that no one ever uses, because why would you ever not sacrifice your health and instead gain very little mana when you can just do this and get a fuck ton of mana? Anyway, this is weird. We're gonna have to see. I think Asuka's gonna be quite bad. Dash can now be cancelled into a special move, while it can be jump cancelled. Okay. So you can do dash jump, I guess, into a special move. Not quite sure what this means. This wording is weird. Can now be cancelled into special moves while it can be jump cancelled. So, are you saying it couldn't be jump cancelled? And while it is jump cancelled, it can now also be cancelled into special move? I'm not quite sure what this means. If this said can now be cancelled into special moves while jumping, or while jump cancelling, it would have been like, okay, you jump cancel your dash, and then you special cancel your jump. That makes sense. But this is very weird. We'll have to see what this means. Universal change, reduce knockback on heavy, forward heavy, now launches on grounded hit. Misfinder, counter effect removed, misfinder kick, the follow-up hitbox to the lower part of the hitbox. Turn up, fix an issue where the hitbox sometimes did not disappear even if Johnny entered the hit state. That's the card, I think, I'm not sure. Deal, change the trajectory of the slash card, now throws the card further than the kick version. And insignia, made it easier to carry momentum, that's my name, counter hit state, it's a universal change. Hitbox adjustments, a follow-up to the lower part of the hitbox for Joker trick. Elphelt. Universal change, universal change, universal change. Universal change. Miss Charlotte, so that's the S and heavy. Projectile with different properties now fires when holding the button, when holding the forward. The startup is slower, so you can hold your projectile to get an enhanced version. Out of repair, this is like the dash forward. Severely increased recovery from advantage is now 4 regardless of where it was blocked on the ground. Reduced knockback, reduced horizontal move speed. Bomb Bomb Chocolat made it harder to carry momentum. This is... I forgot which moves this is actually. Because I thought this was the forward advancing move. But I guess maybe it isn't. I actually forgot which move this is. Anyway, Here I Go. Stagger effect on hit for Here I Go when following up Here I Go. So if you do slash into slash, you get a stagger. So I'm assuming it means you can go slash into slash forever as long as they don't block. And Here I Go after Here I Go has better startup. So it's going to be harder to interrupt the loop back into itself. Up high, expanded hurtbox and hitbox downward for the final hit. Nailed it, that's the heavy at the end. The opponent now attacks upon landing. Super, counter hit state. A.B.A. Are we, hold on. What is, season 3 starts with Johnny. I forgot about calling it, I guess. But anyway, A.B.A. This is universal, this is universal. This is universal, going for 4 to 5. I talked about this earlier when I gave an example to moves that clash into each other. Close slash, whether in or out of Jealousy Rage, once again universal change. Far slash has much higher recovery when in standard. Crouching slash, follow up hitbox to the lower part of the hitbox. Standing heavy, outside of rage. Launches the opponent on grounded hit, jumping heavy, startup increased, active frames changed, jumping heavy in Jealousy Rage, reduce horizontal blowback, Jealousy Rage, initial value change from 50 to 25, so starting the round you'll have only 25%, Jealousy Rage and when Jealousy Gauge is depleted. The 10 frame recovery period now occurs after a super flash ends. This recovery has no throw invulnerability and blocking or romantic are not possible. Activation can no longer be delayed by using fossil defense. Added a punish text when taking damage to the direction. So if you run out because you ran out, not because you installed out of it, you'll have 10 frames where you're completely punishable. You can't throw, you can't stack, you can't RC, you can't block. That's cool. So you'll have to really be mindful of leaving Jealousy Rage manually. Okay, increase the startup for the key because red is better than key and the frame advantage is going to go to -2. Go to the bonus, can only attack upon landing. Half circle punch. That's manually uninstalling. So before, when you manually uninstalled, you gain back 50% of the Jealousy Rage you spent. Now you only get 25%, so you get quite a lot less actually. But it looks like, I don't know, I'm not sure actually, it looks like A.B.A. is just getting nerfed overall. I was gonna say it looks like Jealousy Rage is gonna be stronger, but no, Jealousy Rage is weaker. So we'll have to see. It looks like A.B.A. is gonna be quite worse. So the kick, critical forward kick, critical advantage goes to -4. Millia Rage also goes to -4. Critical forward slash, the increased launch on hit. The forward slash follow up after the first move, severely increased recovery, making you extremely negative. In Jealousy Rage, same thing. Critical backslash. Added a recovery period where only blocking is possible after withstanding an opponent's attack. This is the parry. Previously it was fully invincible state, making it difficult to predict the outcome of offensive defense. Going forward, the attack will no longer whiff, making the situation clearer. Okay, startup time to withstand an opponent's attack is faster, recovery is much lower. La Esqui, Bread is king. The character is in a counter state that makes sense as universal, keeper of the key. Reduced guard conservation. Frame advantage on block is much worse. Player can now be cancelled into special move while it can be jump cancel. Same thing as Johnny, I guess I'm not sure, it's such weird wording, we'll have to see. Maybe I'm just having a stroke because I've been here for too long. Close slash universal change, 6k universal change. Decrease the recovery on 6h. Attack level for the first half of the active frames goes down. Frame advantage on block for the first half of the active frames goes down. When the second half of the active frames is blocked while crouching, the advantage is now +3. So if you block it while crouching because it hits later, you're +3. Reduce knockback for the first half of the active frames. Sweep, horizontal proximity requirement. Mappa Hunch is now +1. That's crazy instead of 0. That's actually crazy. The kick version is -6, so that's actually a good change. So the short reaching version leaves you plus. But the far-reaching version leaves you severely minus. Then the step reduces the damage of the follow-up pal bunker. I'm not sure why they just don't say it here in the pal bunker section. Follow-up hitbox behind the hitbox. Not sure what this means, but I'm assuming this is some cross-up shenanigans. Bump ahead, that's the kick follow-up. Reduce horizontal blowback. Increase launch on grounded hit. S follow-up, much more startup. Bloodsucking universal change. Wall backdash forward S, that's the weird backdash counter thing. This is a follow-up to an invincible move, so they're making it so it can't counter hit. Stagger hit on grounded hit, worse damage scaling, and remove the mechanic that causes it to hit twice a certain distance. It's not a mechanic, bro. Don't try to gaslight it. This is a bug. It used to hit twice. It wasn't a mechanic. It was a bug. Okay, it was a bug. Like, can we agree it was a bug? Like, come on. There's no way this was intended that sometimes it deals 300 damage and sometimes it deals 150. Oh, but it's a mechanic actually. Fuck you. Anyway, is Dizzy? Am I stupid? Are we done with season 3? Is Dizzy season 4? Dizzy, Venom, Unika, and Lucy? Yeah. We're up to season 4. These are the final 4 characters. Universal change. Easier to carry momentum on far slash. Sweep, increase recovery, making it more minus. Jumping heavy, reduce knockback. Okay, I used to catch fish. Projectile can now be spawned behind by inputting S during the duration. Projectile can be front is sprung by inputting heavy during the duration. Okay, so you can spawn it high and low and behind you and in front of you to delay the timing. You can probably put one behind and then one in front so that the one behind walks forward and then is very close to the one in front and do some pretty cool stuff with that. Michael Sword. The opponent now takes upon landing. The heavy version, increased guard crush, frame advantage on block is now 0, but the startup is reduced. But actually having a move that you can just do to be 0 is kind of crazy. Imperial Raid as the invincible super can now be RC'd in its counter hit. Gamma Ray fixed an issue preventing the move from transitioning into the cinematic when hitting under certain conditions. It's just a bug fix, but okay. I mean, not that many changes apart from the ability to control where you spawn your projectile, basically. Venom. Universal change for the 6p, for the closing slash, for the crushing heavy. It's gonna launch the ball at 50 degrees instead of 59 degrees, whatever, who cares. Increased movement speed of the deflected ball. Startup reduced. Forward heavy. Startup reduced. Sweep. It's going to launch the ball high. Instead of being down 20 degrees and then bouncing back up, it's going to launch it straight up. Fix an issue that prevented the ball on jumping dust from bringing the attack from occurring after landing. If it landed exactly at the time of the startup, it really does a bug fix. Increased knockback at the final hit, probably to combo into it easier. Ball fix an issue preventing the ball from disappearing when its duration ended. Q5 attack level increase. Hit stop change. Max hold attack level increase to 4. Stinger. Charge move, so it reduces time you need to charge. Recovery increased for both Stinger Slash and Stinger Heavy. The frame advantage on block at point blank is going to be much worse. Carcass Raid reduced upward and hitbox and hurtbox. Forward and downward hurtboxes for the air version. Removes throw invincibility on the command grab. Alright, so overall, Q5 is now going to trigger counter hits, but it's a special move, so you won't be able to use it into the new wall assault thing, but more consistent angle to throw your balls at probably means it's going to be quite good, and just slightly more recovery on Stinger, but I don't think it's going to matter too much. Unika. Universal change. Forward heavy slash now fires a projectile. The character is now in the color it's safe until the end of recovery. Okay, it's interesting. Increased knockback for sweep. Down slash, that's like your far slash, because Unika can do close slash far slash into a follow-up. This is the command normal 4. Increased knockback. 80 MG, that's just, I forgot which one this is, whatever. Arbalest, I think that's like the weird DP thing. I'm not sure. Maybe it's the projectile. Anyway, proximity requirement, preventing it from hitting the opponent by getting behind the characters on pushbox. Quarter circle back kick, that's like the overhead thing, where the opponent can only protect upon landing. Decrease the launch height after the ground bounce. The DP, counter hit if removed. The second hit only connects to the opponent. Bigger recovery, less advantage on hit, and much less advantage on block. Blazer Trail fixed an issue where Arbalest mode did not persist after activating the Blazer Trail during Arbalest mode when cancelling a startup with Mega Death Buster. I'm not sure what this means, but it's fixed an issue, whatever. The super counter hit stayed until the end. Weapons free, slightly better startup, and increase for movement speed. Okay, probably going to be easier to connect from bigger ranges. Lucy, so we made it to the end, it's the final character. And I haven't really played that much Lucy, so there's not much for me to say, but universal mechanic for 6B and close slash and far slash, pulls the opponent. If it does the opponent, thinking for crouching slash, so I guess that's just a vacuum effect. I'm not sure if they say pulls the opponent, why don't they just say vacuum? Standing heavy, no longer launches the opponent on grounded hit. Forward heavy, decreased startup, that's kind of like all forwards heavy and you're getting slightly decreased startup actually. Command number 3. Now activate even if it's a down input, so you can do it from the crouch slash, I guess. No, not really, because you do it from a... No, okay, you can. You can do it from a standing slash and then crouch, and then still get the move, as opposed to get nothing. Decrease recovery, so it's more advantageous on block, but still punishable. Command number 4, crouching slash after crouching slash. Increase recovery, but it's still punishable. Moonwire, fix an issue where the proximity block range had become too long, that's just fix an issue. Increased horizontal blowback after the final bounce. Unity, more advantageous on block, it's actually going to be unpunishable. Spring attack, active frames are decreased, reduced knockback, reduced launch height is now reduced when hitting the same move twice. Sprint attack cross up, because it's like one of those neutral skip moves, it's going to have worse damage scaling. DP, counter hit effect removed, universal changes for DP. Super, condition of the opponent's self required to transfer the finisher is now 20%, so you execute at 20% instead of 15. Characters in a counter hit state until the end, that's universal change. Contagion, damage interval are doubled. RAM usage changed from 9 to 11. That's one of the pips, or you use. So getting damage resistance costs 2 more pip and lasts twice as long. That's kind of bad actually. Added guard crush effect to standing heavy, crouching heavy, and forward heavy while active. Okay, that's pretty cool. So you use it to become resistant, but you get a guard crush effect. It's worse resistance, but you get a guard crush effect. Anyway, that's it. That's the entire patch. I went over all of it in 1 hour 30. Important thing to keep in mind, I guess. I think damage is going down overall. Corner carry is going to go down overall. Hitboxes are going to be... hurt boxes are going to be bigger, so low profiling is going to be harder. Especially 6 being under a projectile for many of the characters. Sweeps are worse at low profiling, except for characters who are clearly leaning way low into their sweeps, such as Badguy or Anji. But other than that, thanks for watching. I'm glad I got this over with. I'm excited for the patch comes out tomorrow. I'm not sure how much I'm gonna have to play it. I'm gonna try to play it on the weekend still. Maybe I'm gonna live stream it. Maybe if you made it to the end of the video, you can go check it out. You can go lab with me and we can go run some games. I don't know, dude. I don't know. But for now, thanks for watching. And if you made it to the end, once again, thanks you. I'll see you guys next time.